Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
This is Faith Under Fire. Each Thursday on Family Life, we give voice to religious battlegrounds in this nation. I'm your host, Tracy Lynn. With us today, author and radio host, Brant Hansen.
Everybody thinks their own anger is righteous, so the idea of actually deciding, wait, I'm going to actually forgive people proactively is shocking.
You wrote a book that really got my attention. Would you explain what it means to be an unoffendable Christian?
Yeah, I'm actually telling people something that sounds crazy, but it's scriptural, and that's that we're supposed to get rid of anger. There is no anger that we're supposed to hold on to because it'll destroy us. And God has forgiven us, so we have to turn around and forgive other people.
Yeah, it's not easy. What does Scripture say about guiding us through this whole process?
Well, some people memorize the first half of a verse in Ephesians where it talks about, in your anger, do not sin. And that's acknowledging that anger happens. You know, we're equipped with fight or flight response. It's a physiological response. It's frustration with not getting our way, but it's threat. But the rest of that Ephesians verse that people don't memorize is get rid of your anger before the end of the day. 5 verses later, same context, it tells us to get rid of all bitterness and anger, all anger. And that's a very consistent theme in Scripture, is that God's anger is righteous because he's not a sinner. But we're sinners, so we're supposed to get rid of it. What we're actually supposed to do is forgive people. It doesn't mean that we have to ignore abuse or keep a relationship going that's not good, but it does mean we have to get rid of our anger feelings against people because we're not actually entitled to it.
Brant, how do we do that? What does that look like for maybe somebody who's never seen that modeled?
You have to just decide, you know what, I know humans are messed up. Goodness, if I have any scriptural insight at all, I realize that we're messed up. Jesus told us as much. And the second thing is to remember the basis for forgiving people isn't whether they deserve it or not. You forgive people because you didn't deserve it and God forgave you.
Yeah.
So to turn around and deny that forgiveness of somebody else is a height of self-righteousness, which is how we all operate, but that's the basis. So even if somebody's done something horrendous and horrific, we have to enter into the grief over our own sin and then extend that gratitude for God's forgiveness. That's the basis for forgiving somebody else.
It makes me think of the parable in Scripture where the man in debt by a great amount was shown grace for that great amount, and then he went out and was really rude to the man who owed him a small sum. And it's that reminder for us in Scripture, like, oh man, what that person just did to me. It feels like it's overwhelming and big, but it's so small in comparison to our own sin and what the Lord has done for us.
That's what Jesus was talking about precisely. And saying, if we don't forgive, we won't be forgiven. So the idea that I'm entitled to my righteous anger against someone else is not true. It means I'm not going to forgive this person if I believe that. Well, that's terrible. I mean, Jesus doesn't mince words on that kind of thing. So we got to get over this myth that our anger is righteous and we're supposed to hold on to it forever. We're actually supposed to get rid of it. We still stand up for justice. We do the right thing. We protect the vulnerable. We take action to help people against injustice. But this idea that we're supposed to have this anger emotion, that we're supposed to keep it, is just wrong.
Not to mention, it's like a ticking time bomb. That anger can explode.
Animals have the same reaction to threat. They have fight or flight, but it's over for them in 20 seconds. They get away or they don't. But we humans are the only creatures that can hold on to this stress of anger. It turns out it'll kill us. That physiological response staying in your system is deadly. And here's our Creator telling us to get rid of this. It's for our own good.
Absolutely. I think you alluded to this, but what does it look like when we walk without allowing our circumstances and the insults and that anger to mess with us? What do people observe?
You know what? It's wild. People will be attracted to you and drawn to you if you're this way. Even if you're a believer, people who aren't believers in your neighborhood or at work or whatever will actually want to hang out with you because you're not offended by anything. You actually become somebody who's the opposite of a Pharisee. You still stand for truth. You still do the right things. You still believe in right and wrong. But you become this person that is a curiosity to people because they can't scandalize you. It's actually really beautiful. And they're very curious about that. Like, this book has been really interesting for non-believers to read because they'll read it and go, oh, this is what Christianity is all about. Awesome.
Yeah, it's a grace magnet. I had a coworker tell me once, Tracy, it's okay. It's easy for me to extend grace to you because it's been extended to me.
Yeah, that's it. And honestly, if you had just been let off death row, for instance, let's say you were convicted of a crime that you did and you deserved it, but they let you off death row, wouldn't you be just elated? Would you then, on your drive home from the courthouse, oh, somebody just cut me off. I can't believe it. That person's terrible. No, because you'd be so thankful for your own forgiveness that you would immediately extend it to other people just because you're so thankful.
That's author and radio host Brant Hansen. I'm Tracy Lynn, Family Life News.